Welkom iedereen bij TV2. In januari werd David Bowie er 50. Dat heeft de wereld geweten. De White Duke kondigde aan dat dit het startsein was voor alweer iets nieuws. Humorjournalist Serge Simonart zocht Bowie op en had een lang gesprek met deze artistieke chameleon die vooral bezig is met muziek, maar ook met film en beeldende kunst. Beide heren hebben het gehad over werk, het leven, de liefde, noem maar op. En één ding komt duidelijk naar voren. David Bowie has no regrets.
The Man Who Fell to Earth. Het zou een grafschrift voor David Bowie kunnen zijn, ware het niet dat Bowie met 50 vitaler is dan ooit en dat hij een roll arena blijft Bowie de eeuwige outsider, een artistieke chameleon die even snel van muzikale stijlen en genres wisselt als van look en imago. Mythologische figuur.
Who do you think you are? Are you an evil spirit?
Yeah. And one of yours, I hope.
Op artistiek vlak is Bowie een duiveldoe-al. Film, muziek, beeldende kunsten, in alles zoekt hij naar het theatrale, naar een ontsnappingsroute uit de grijze wereld, naar een parallel universum van de kunst. Hij zelf omschrijft het als een nooit aflatende honger, net zoals een vampier steeds weer nieuw bloed nodig heeft om te overleven, of om eeuwig verder te leven.
Forever. Forever and ever.
Op 8 januari van dit jaar werd David Bowie 50 en dat werd uitgebreid gevierd in de New Yorkse concerttempel Madison Square Gardens. Het werd geen afscheid, geen laatste wals, maar alweer een nieuwe start voor een van de jongste 50ers uit de rockscene van vandaag.
For all those of you that have come and seen me for so many years, it's been a fantastic ride. Thank you very much. For those of you that have maybe just found my music,
and early 80s, it was impossible virtually to go anywhere without not seeing Warhol, because he would go everywhere. If there was a new gallery opening, he'd be there. If somebody threw a party, he'd be there. If there was a new film, anything. He really sort of turned up a lot to everything. But I certainly got a very strong sense of him when on the occasions that we did meet. And for me, I always thought that he, as a personality, got a sort of an ambiguous, if not a kind of a fairly malicious press. I think they had him carved, they pinned him to be a malicious person himself, and some kind of Machiavellian, hard person, and I didn't find that at all.
Reminds me of some accusations vented at some rock star.
And we know how they're wrong. But I actually found him fairly insecure, a little kind of in awe of his own reputation. I found that he was the kind of person that didn't actually understand why he was taken so seriously or had become...
$10 a piece?
No, I think it's okay.
Of course, Mr. Bishop.
Gee, ignorant art, Bruno.
Yeah, you know, like stupid, like ridiculous, crummy art.
Wow, that sounds good. That's new.
$10.
Oh, gee, didn't work very much on these. I can give you like 5. Come on, Bruno, you're rich. Maybe you should talk to Bruno.
You don't even work on your stuff?
No, it's not how much you work on something that matters. It's how much you get for them.
I can get 10.
These are great, Bruno. Maybe I'll take 2. I'll take, let me see these. I'll take this one, and I don't know. Bruno, can I borrow some money?
Yeah.
He almost had a little boy lost quality about him that I felt was possibly much nearer to the man than maybe the way he'd been construed in
moving.
You know, yeah, and that's the if there was an element of him that I wanted to bring in, and he was actually very funny as well, and most of the time unwittingly, didn't kind of realise he was funny. Well, he was just very flip in his replies, but they weren't premeditated. He just said the first thing on his brain, and they were often just silly little remarks. He was kind of like a dizzy queen, you know, and I'm not sure that he was much more complicated than that. And that's the kind of element of him that I wanted to portray, you know, through my thing. I wanted the humanization of Warhol, rather than this great monster of art, you know.
Dad home? Oh, hi, John. That's great, Frank. Can you, I don't know, whiz over here? More that way.
What's with the wigs?
Oh, I'm gonna give them to people for Christmas.
You think that's a good present? Who wants an old wig?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, piss painting.
No, piss painting, Sean. Oxidation art.
Yeah, I hate cleaning brushes, too.
I'm gonna do some more of these. Frank's been drinking this great Mexican beer, and it makes it go this great green.
Why don't you paint on him yourself?
I don't like beer.
There's something connected to Warhol as well, and to the perception people
don't
have.
try and make a strong link between me and Warhol,
No,
Serge.
no,
I'll wring your bloody neck.
No,
if you
it's
try
just that the difference in perception
absolutely
between.
nothing similar between us whatsoever.
You're going to shoot me now.
No. I mean, everything.
just
our
the-
approaches are so different.
No, but the
he
thing
was
I-
very much a surface man. I'm very much an interior and multi-textured person. I layer things. I try and create polymorphous and poly-meanings to everything that I do. Whereas Warhol wanted one simple, direct construct. Our approaches to what we do, our relationships with people, the way that we were and are just so incredibly different. Individual. Probably really didn't gather steam until someone like Turner in 1820. That kind of period, that's when you get the individual. It's a new concept, the artist. And so I think the many hundreds of years where it was merely a commercial concern, where an artist did a job and was paid for it. I mean, I think the hilarious thing, I think it should probably go back to that, is that once an artist he would charge by the amount of gold he used in his painting, or the amount of German blue. Well, you're going to have about 15 inches of German blue in this one, so you're going to, let's see, 15, 30, about 40 ducats, I'd say. And I think musicians could charge by the minute. I think, well, this piece would probably go about 7 minutes, so much a second.
£20.
Yeah, yes.
For instance, I don't know, buy the paintbrush of Monet or whatever, and on the other hand...
I bought the palette to Stanley Spencer.
You did?
Yeah. This is. But by the way, I only bid to what I think the value is. I'm quite tight with my money in auctions. I don't go through the roof. Most of my best things that I've bought have been a very reasonable amount, because nobody else knew what they were or recognised them.
Which is
I'm
the
very
best.
Immodest as a collector. I'm very good at what I collect.
But again, you're in the position also that your stuff is auctioned in rock memorabilia, etc. I've always wondered, I know it's a trivial thing, but how does it feel? I would hate, for instance, a writer whose letters are auctioned off. I'd get so angry.
I think well, the only thing that probably angers me is stuff that I know for a fact was stolen. It's, you know, it's sort of it's a consequence of being public property in a way. So it comes with the territory, and in one way, I kind of think, well, I don't have to do what I do. If I want, you know, if I don't like being a public figure and all the shit that comes with it, I've got the option of leaving. So, you know, it's like, it's no, you have to kind of expect it, you know.
Like
you can't moan about it.
Zen attitude, like.
I don't know about that, but it's a...
Now, you're, and this sounds like you're a very intelligent person, but have you used working methods for writing songs, etc., where you consciously sort of try to be an idiot savant,
Yes.
or an anti-intellectual as
Good
opposed
spotting,
to...
Serge. That's exactly why one does use processes of deconstruction, is to deconstruct the intellect, that when you start to perceive a thread of rationality or stability in what you're doing, I think the impulse is to destroy that, because you kind of know the outcome. And when you can predict the outcome of your own work, I think that's incredibly dissatisfying.
On these last two albums was a moment where you realized that and went consciously the other way?
Let me see now. I didn't have the problem on Earthling so much. Everything was done in such a rush of spontaneity that no real patterns were emerging whilst we made the album. It had substance, and obviously there was an unconscious thread of energy that ran through everything, that bound it together, and that was a good thing. But while during the process of making it, no real patterns emerged. So I think that's what kept its sense of delight in itself in America to release it. So it's because everybody hated it. They said it was just too far out, too whatever, you know. And I think we kept tinkering with it because we had nothing else to do. Once we waited for a record company to come along and say, well, we'll give it a chance. And I now wish that we'd been able to stop when we stopped recording and not been given all that amount of time to sit around and ponder it and say, oh, let's go back and look at track 3, you know, and you sort of do a bit more on it. And I think, unfortunately, I felt that overall it became overworked by the end.
I wondered, as we're talking about Earthling and Outside and all the, you know, the drum and bass, the new technologies and all of that.
Yeah.
I wonder, had they been around, all this new stuff, in 1972, do you think that you'd started off doing that, or do you think that the whole basic rock and roll, Ziggy, etc. approach was a necessary, were necessary stepping stones leading up to this?
I think I would have embraced more of the technology had it been there, but it still would have been character driven. It would have been narration, and it would have been trying to create a narrative piece of work. I don't think inherently it would have changed that aspects of it. I think I would have tried and stylize Ziggy's World maybe a little more in that industrial sense had it been around. I think things like 5 Years, for instance, I think I would have just run for the drum machine had it been there at the time, because it would have been so perfect for that kind of robotic kind of death pound that I wanted with 5 Years, you know. But some of the other stuff was just strictly melodramatic and romantically inclined.
It's been thank you, my darling. An extraordinary 35 years of this 50 years. Oh, I see. Thank you, Reeves. I ain't competing with that.
You're very good friends with both Lou Reed and Iggy Pop, and all the Survivor stuff that we could bring up and which I won't. There's one thing I really wonder about. Are there moments now that you sort of ponder the mere fact of both creatively and as a human being,
Yeah.
having survived all of that and being able to do creatively what you do now, that you have a sort of like,
the only way that I explained it to somebody before like this, but the only way that I can explain all that is that it's kind of like, I don't reject the fact that I took a lot of drugs and had some very wild experiences.
you took drugs?
Well, mainly, you know, aspirins, Advils, that sort of thing. But in vast quantities, incredible quantities. I used to crush them up and stick them on my arm, and nothing happened. But it was almost like the abandonment of one's life in terms of the to be recompensated by an experience. You know, sort of you were kind of willing to put virtual reality on the line. And it was a bit...
When George Martin asked John Lennon in I don't know, 1975 or something, if you could change one thing about the Beatles recordings, what would it be? And John Lennon said, everything. That's sort of like... Or is that just a bon mot? No, but that's the opposite of what you're...
I don't think... I can't believe John really meant that, you know. I think it was a bon mot. I mean, there's somebody who, I mean, what I appreciate, he was so great with one-liners. I mean, and he just threw them out without thinking, you know, a lot. I think you do, you know, you see something coming, you can't avoid it. So, oh, there's a great line here somewhere. And you throw out these daft answers, and he would do that all the time. And I think that there might have been a soupçon of truth about that, maybe. You know, but I'm sure not everything. I mean, he used to talk about the older material with me with such a kind of real sentimentality in a way, and he knew that they'd done really groovy things, you know. I mean, I don't think there's very much he would have changed about it. I can't second guess him. I can't say what he really felt, but he seemed to really like what he'd done in the past. I guess there's always those like real thorns in the side that he wished they'd never done that song or done it a different way and all that.
Strawberry fields forever.
I think that's dependent on whether we get it finished or not. I think we all have the ambition to try and get it together to do this thing. Unfortunately, they probably couldn't have picked three of the... I mean, all three of us are obsessively... We have very strong work ethics, and we're never, ever in the same city at the same time. For the last year, it's been a real problem to get three of us sitting down at one table. Wilson is all over Europe. I mean, he's got an opera a weekend, that guy. I don't think, you know, there's nowhere where he isn't putting on an opera. And Brian's just gone to Russia, and I'm just going out on tour, so, like, it's like, oh, I don't know, let's try next January. Find a table to sit down at. But, yeah, I'd love to get that done. I really would. The other thing that I think is easier to pin down, because Philip Glass doesn't move about quite as much as everybody else, is that Philip has asked me to write the third symphony with him after the Low End Heroes ones. He wants me to actually create a new one with him, which I think I'm quite excited about doing. I'm not quite sure what it means at the moment, writing with Philip, but I'm looking very much forward to doing that.
don't you feel naked or exposed in a way when that is?
Oh, the moment you step into a public arena, you better be prepared for that, I think. Anybody who feels that they can become, they can retain the normality of a regular social animal if they become a public figure is fooling themselves.
But I find those naked demos more courageous than not playing your old hits anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think there's anything courageous about not playing old hits. I just think,
Yes,
you know, it could be perceived as foolhardy, you know, but that's fine. But for me, it's actually a necessity, or has been, for the. It was a necessity for the first 5 years of the 90s for me to do that. I think now I'm getting to a point where I can reevaluate them a bit more, and I'm very likely to now go back on my word and start playing them in a year or two. But so, not this year yet. But when I can, it was important for me to be not used to them, for me to not know them so well, for me to be able to look back at them and say, well, that could be quite interesting, actually. To recontextualize it, to revamp it, to contemporize it, to put it in a different kind of context.
Must have been a moment.
I defend it to this day.
Thank you. There must have been a moment with Joe growing up where you had a sort of, you must have had a sort of situation where he was a punker with green hair or whatever, and that you were put in that position, sort of.
Yeah.
No? Generation gap type of.
Well, you know, it was never for me. I mean, I wouldn't have cared when he was younger. I mean, he's his own man now, obviously, as he is your age. But there was a point where I worried for him. You know, that there was a point where he got a mohawk, you know, and it wasn't so much me that I mean, I'd go around with him whatever he looked like, you know. It's just that I know what gets thrown at you when you look different, you know, and maybe it was protective. But we never ever, I mean, frankly, I just ended up keeping my mouth shut, you know, and I just thought, oh, look, he's going to go through it, he's going to have to go through it, you know, he'll decide. But so he's always done he's always been what he wants to be.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
No, my pleasure. I assure you.